Welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. I'm Sherry Zutenbergen. You were born, you're gonna die, and your adventure is your dash in between. So make the most of it. Unlock your potential in all aspects of your dash by embracing your uniqueness and living in a way that's authentic to you, not by doing more things, but by focusing on the right things. I'm a former corporate leader turned coach who's on my own journey, and I'm passionate about helping you on your journey too. So on the podcast, we'll explore how to live authentically by deciphering who you truly are and what you truly want. Are you ready to take a step toward designing your dash? Someday doesn't actually exist, so let's do it now. Hello, thank you for being here at the Dash Mindset Podcast. Today, I'm excited to share Tom Hicks with you. Tom has a really unique message that he shares with the world. He has a unique way of encouraging people to fail. And I just love his message. He's a super cool guy. We're going to have a fun conversation, and I'm just excited to share Tom with you today. So welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sherry.
So if you could share just a high-level overview of what it is you do, the message you share with the world, and tell us a little bit about, how'd you get here? That would be fantastic.
Can do. And thanks again for that amazing introduction. My name's Tom. I'm a keynote speaker, and I'm a former college dean who teaches people how to juggle while helping them rethink failure, resilience, and growth. So during my final semester of college, I experienced several major life setbacks in just a few weeks. That included failing student teaching, so I needed to find a new career, ending a long-term relationship that was leading to marriage in the next month, and learning that my father had dementia. So shortly after that, a fourth event happened. My grandmother, who was the best gift giver I've ever known, gave me a set of juggling balls. And I learned how to juggle that day in her living room. And it helped me experience a mindset shift that changed my life and relationship with failure. I use that experience and that gift to continue to help people be more comfortable with failure and use failure as fuel for growth.
I didn't realize, Tom, that there were that many events during 1 month. I knew you had a lot of events, and I've heard you speak. So I've heard this. I think maybe each time I heard a particular situation and I thought, oh my gosh, and just didn't digest all of them. So that's a lot. And that same month, your grandma gave you the juggling balls and you learned in the same day. And why did she give you the juggling balls? Was it for your birthday, did you say? Or did she just say, oh, you're having a really cruddy month, Tom. Here you go.
I don't think she knew much of what was going on. She knew that I had been struggling, but didn't know all of the details. And I think she just thought that they were a neat gift. And she was known for that. She's the best gift giver I've ever known, like I said. And she always managed to get us really, really interesting and useful items, whether or not we realized they would be interesting and useful at the time. And so this is one of those immediate gifts that provided a payback right away. But I don't think it was that intentional other than, hey, I think Tommy might like this. And so let me get it for him. And she was happy that I started using it right away.
That is so fun. So you just decided, okay, I'm going to use these today and I'm just going to learn how to do this today.
I did. And part of it was because they were really nice. They were professional leather juggling balls, so that it already had me interested. The better piece of it, though, was the little booklet that came with those balls. So most juggling kits come with some sort of instruction booklet, and usually it's really, really dumbed down. Literally, Juggling for Dummies or Juggling 101. This one was a little bit different. It was titled A Short Course in Life Enhancement. And as you heard, my life didn't feel enhanced at that time. And so I was looking for anything I could to help myself feel better. And the way that was worded, that booklet was worded, it made it so accessible and fun. And it helped me to embrace some of that recent failure or struggle that I had had and use juggling as a process or a way to enjoy the progress that you can make in taking on smaller tasks and getting really, really good at them. And so it took me from a place where I was pretty stuck to a place where I was unstuck and really developed that growth mindset, that continuous improvement mindset. And it's continued to be a practice that I use to this day.
I love that. I love that. I mean, just thinking about the fact that if it had been juggling for dummies, well, okay, your grandma sounds like she's a good gift giver, so she wouldn't have gotten you anything that said dummies on it, probably. But I mean, if it had been worded that way, if she'd gotten you a different set, that may have led to nothing, and you may have thought, well, I already feel like a dummy this month. I don't want to add to it. Thanks a lot, grandma. And you could have put them on a shelf, right? But instead, it was life enhancement and you did something with it. That is so cool. Okay, so when did you actually start sharing that with people? And how did you realize, oh, wait a minute, I could actually enhance the lives of others too? I could do something with this.
Yes, this was a personal practice of mine for many years. And so I've worked in higher ed my entire career, usually providing direct student support and often having really difficult conversations with students and staff and faculty. And so for me, it was just a personal journey. It was a personal process that oftentimes when I needed a break from work, I always keep juggling balls on my desk. I would juggle for 30 seconds or a couple of minutes just to give myself a break and to offer some divergent thinking. And what started to happen was we were looking for ways to help first year students, so freshmen in college, who were failing for the first time. They were getting their first B's, C's, D's, or F's in their lives. And they were choosing to leave college on the spot, literally over the weekend, not even waiting until the semester was over. And we were throwing whatever we could at the wall to see if we could help change their mindset or give them an avenue to change their mindset. And one of those things that I threw on the wall was this juggling presentation or workshop that helps students use this life enhancement model to deal with those failures or those mistakes or those failed exams a little bit more. And so I started to do it more and more. And then the staff in the room started to say, hey, I think this would be useful with my team. Would you come and do this with my team? And so it just kind of grew over the years into something that I'd done dozens and dozens of times. And so today I help organizations and leaders and teams embrace that failure, celebrate that progress instead of perfection, and build stronger cultures through play, curiosity, and shared learning. And so in addition to that embracing failure piece, we talk about playing at work and how can we integrate some play into our day every day? And what does it look like to continually grow and improve?
I love that you brought this to your students initially and that it even occurred to you. So I was in college in the 1900s, Tom, and
Late
I know back
1900s, Sherry.
then.
You and me both.
Oh, excuse the late 1900s. Thank you. Yeah, that does make it feel better. But we never talked about, at least it had never been introduced to me, the whole idea of failing. I mean, the fact that it was a good thing and actually necessary. And so as you're sharing your story, which again, I've heard before, but this time it hit me in a different way, I guess. When I went to college, I remember getting my first bad grade on an exam and just thinking, well, I guess I might as well just, I don't know, quit. I didn't go to anyone and actually decide I'm going to quit school, but I just thought, well, I'm clearly not as bright as I thought I was. That sucks. But it was really, really hard. And I really did take it to that next level, thinking this is who I am as a person. And I had never heard about growth mindset. I just thought failing was bad and it represented, my level of intelligence and my worth as a person, which I realize that sounds super dramatic, but I think a lot of us go there. And you clearly had that experience with students as well. So it's not just it's not just a me thing. When you started thinking about this and sharing this with students, did you feel like it was the first time they had been introduced to the concept of failing, and how did that go?
Yes, good question. One of the things I realized is that while many students had heard about embracing failure or growth mindset, or maybe we're on an athletic team and had some exposure to that, or a coach who helped them navigate some challenges or failures in the past, it's rare for us to go from a place where we're talking about it and understanding it in theory or conceptually and actually doing it in person and maybe with others, right? When you
Yeah.
failed that test or got that first bad grade, just like the students I was working with, you go back to your room or you go somewhere by yourself. And what we're taught with failure is to literally close off and not be open to new opportunities or maybe to feedback, or we really think we can't improve. And so, although those students may have understood they had heard the phrase growth mindset, they hadn't been taught to do it, or what does it take to do it. And so I think that's what made this a little bit different of an experience in using juggling, in using an actual activity like juggling, that they get to one, fail dozens of times in a really low stakes way over the course of, 30, 45, 60 minutes. And then they also have to pick up those balls and try again. And so, letting them know, or letting them feel that it's okay to drop the ball literally and figuratively. And the goal is for you to pick it back up again, and you can get better. You can improve from this. And so, yeah, there was some language around that. I was lucky that this all came together when there was a movement towards growth mindset and positive psychology in higher ed. And so, there was some general support for it. But yeah, I think while students and I think people in general have heard and they could explain what growth mindset is to you, they don't often get challenged or are often not in a space where they can actually do it. And I think that's what makes this session, this keynote or this workshop so appealing.
That's a really great point. I guess even if we had talked about growth mindset, I don't know if just talking about it really would have impacted me any differently, because we talk about a lot of things in theory, but they don't really click because, okay, yeah, I know intellectually that failing is a good thing, or failing is okay, and you can come back from that. And I think we all know that intellectually, but I love the way you actually incorporate it and allow people an opportunity to fail. Because I mean, generally you're going to fail at juggling the first time. Maybe you didn't, I don't know, Tom, but it's something everyone's going to fail at, and everyone can get a little bit better within 60 minutes.
It is relatively accessible in that way. Yeah. And so I just feel lucky that this gift came when it did, and that my day job and work life aligned like it did in order to be able to bring this to students. And it was also something that students and other staff saw me doing. Like I said, I kept some juggling balls on my desk, and so they would give it a try. And so it opened up the conversation. Yes. And the ability to make progress on a skill is hard to do within 30, 60 minutes. And so, but with juggling, people can often see juggling within a few, or progress within a few minutes. And so, it is relatively accessible, in that way. The first time I did this kind of outside of that context, it was with marshmallows. I was at a friend's house, Chris Lehman, who you know, and she had a bunch of people over for kind of a happy hour and a bonfire in her backyard. And I said, "Hey, Chris, you know this session that I've been doing at work? I think I want to see if there's some interest in the larger world." And she said, "Well, my entire learning and development team is here. What if you give them a little preview?" And I said, "I didn't mean right now." And she said, "You can do it." We were all about to roast some marshmallows, so I gave everybody sitting around the fire 3 marshmallows, and I told them a little story about the gift from my grandmother, and I took them through the steps for 1, 2, and 3 marshmallows or juggling balls, and we had a blast. And that gave me some sense that there was something to this that applied outside of college students. And so that her encouragement and that opportunity was really, really meaningful in getting this all started.
I hadn't put together that it was Chris's house that you were at when you did that.
Hmm.
Oh, now I can actually have a picture in my mind. So, okay. So when you are doing this with organizations, what is the feedback that you're getting from people, and how do you think they're actually taking it? And
into their workplaces and into their lives? What have you been hearing about that? I know they're implementing it in some way. I'd just love to know, what are you hearing?
Yeah, that's a great question because Chris did end up having me in to work with the Goodwill team, and I did 6 sessions for them last summer. And to this day, they continue to have messages sent in their internal messaging. It's not Slack, but it's a similar system of their team members still learning how to juggle and sharing their failures and their successes with each other. And so just to know that that culture has changed or shifted to continue to embrace failure and celebrate that success together is great, all while doing something really, really fun together. The neat thing is I have a handful of phrases that I use during these sessions that are easily implemented with groups. And so when I'm working with athletic teams, I often focus on a phrase called so what, now what? So you make a bad pass. Now what are you going to do? You're not going to sulk. You're not going to walk off the field. You need to often immediately alter your path or where you are on the field or on the court in order to be ready for the next play. You kind of need to flush it from your memory. And so when I'm working with soccer teams and basketball teams and other athletic teams, we focus on so what, now what? The big phrase that I use in each of these sessions is how fascinating. And so when we make a mistake, instead of curling up in a ball or not being open to different opportunities, we embrace that failure or that mistake and we say, how fascinating. What I love about how fascinating is that it is both a statement and a question, and it is curious and it is definitive. And so it helps us reset in addition to that action on how we feel and what we do when we make a mistake or we fail. And so the coolest thing that happened just recently, I was doing a session and in the middle of it, not even afterwards, but in the middle of it, a woman stands up and says, Tom, this has been life altering. And I kind of stopped everything. And she said, I've lived my whole life afraid of and in pursuit of perfection. And you just help rewrite that for me. This has given me a new perspective on what failure and mistakes can look like. And so I'm trying to remain open to that really positive feedback. It's hard for me to believe that my little old workshop that I did with college students can have that sort of impact. But yeah, both on an individual and a team level, there are some really cool outcomes that have resulted from a bunch of people being in the room, having fun, failing, and juggling together.
That is so cool. That's amazing feedback. And it makes me realize too that sometimes the life-altering stuff, and maybe most of the time actually, is in those little moments. I mean, so yeah, it may have started as a little workshop that you did with students, but I can see how it would absolutely alter someone's life in a 45-minute span, because if we have never thought about failing as a positive, or if we've just thought about it from a theoretic standpoint, and then we're actually experiencing it in this new way, I can absolutely see how that would be life altering for someone. Oh, that's so cool. That had to be so rewarding to hear that, Tom.
Yeah, especially knowing that this all came from a gift from my grandmother, and
Yeah.
she's one of the most important and meaningful people that I've ever had in my life. Just to be able to continue to share a little bit more about her and the gifts that she gave me. It really takes me out of I am just the middle person there. I just love being able to share a little bit of what she shared with me with the rest of the whoever's in attendance or the rest of the world.
And the fact that your grandma, I'm guessing, had no idea that giving you a set of juggling balls as a gift was going to, alter your life and then in turn alter the lives of other people. Oh, okay. So, Tom, when you received that gift from your grandma, how did that impact how you moved forward specifically in that month? Because the month that you shared with all of those significant events occurring in your life, any one of those things could have taken someone down. And So how exactly did you progress and move forward? Because I know it probably wasn't just this magical, "Oh, now I know how to fail." How did it how did you actually apply it in a way that allowed you to move forward?
The most immediate challenge I had before me was that I had been preparing for years at this point to become a K through 12 teacher. I was going to teach probably middle school or high school biology and science. And that wasn't really on the table anymore. There was still a pathway to be able to do that, but I realized my heart wasn't in that. And so, practically speaking, my most immediate concern was figuring out a new career path or field, or how am I going to get a job now that I've just graduated from college. And a couple weeks earlier, my whole career plan changed. And so, what it helped me to do was to reorient pretty quickly on the job search front, and maybe helped me realize that some previous experience I had as a resident assistant and being really involved in college was the space that I really wanted to be in. And so what it helped me to do was realize that I could still do some sort of teaching or teaching adjacent work, well, not in a traditional classroom. And so I dug in and used that growth mindset to learn everything I could about applying for different types of jobs in higher education. And it just so happened to be that ended up being a field that I loved and ended up going to grad school for and working in my entire career. And so that was the first most practical thing. The relationship piece took a little bit more. There's a little bit more healing to be done there and figuring out what it looks like for me to be in a relationship. And then you didn't ask this specifically, but the whole caregiving piece for my dad and eventually both of my parents didn't really come around to a few years later when I dug in and tried to understand dementia and aging a little bit more. And that's something I spent a lot of time the last 10 years doing. And so it's this gift has continued to serve me over the years with those three situations that I call my rough patch, or those three challenges that I had. But most practically speaking, it helped me with that job search, kind of to reorient my efforts and be curious about what was possible. I was able to land a job a couple of months later that started in July in Pennsylvania, and confirmed for me that I think higher ed's where I want to be, and I'm okay not being a K through 12 teacher.
Truly, it was far from a failure because it was all an experiment that allowed you to figure out, "Oh, do I even really like this?" Because your heart wasn't in it. So it was just it was just a step along the path to where you were supposed to be. And I think we so often view things as failures when they're not failures at all. It's just, "Oh, we're just figuring it out," right? Which is what you're teaching people through juggling.
Yes, looking back on it, it's easy for me to say that. But I
Yeah.
still remember the moment that my cooperating teacher said, Tom, I know you're trying hard, but I cannot recommend you for licensure, for teacher
Yeah.
licensure. And so that still stings for me to recall that memory. And in many ways, I'm so glad that happened. One, I can now admit that I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready. And two, it did lead me down a little bit different path that ended up being super rewarding and very, very worth it.
A lot of times when we're talking about failure, when we know that, okay, yes, this is going to lead to something good, this isn't actually a failure. It can sound like Pollyanna positivity, which can actually be frustrating to people. How do you share that in a way that's not too positive?
Yes, and working with students in my day job, that is almost all that we talk about is you've been able to overcome challenges like this before. This one seemed super significant, super huge, and you already have the tools and the skills to be able to navigate this. That's one of the things about growth mindset, right? As kids, we have this usually naturally ingrained growth mindset. We are excited to learn how to ride a bike or play a sport or learn an instrument or learn a language or learn how to drive a car or operate a lawnmower. And over the years, we tend to lose that for a bunch of different reasons. And so my whole goal is to help people recapture or reconnect with that skill that they already have that they're just not using, or that muscle that they haven't been exercising of growth mindset. And so that's so often my conversation with students is that, yes, you struggled with midterms this semester. That's happened before, and you've been able to bounce back and finish really, really strong. What do I need to do? What can I support you with? What can I take off your plate in order to make that a little bit easier for you? And if I could help students realize that earlier, like you mentioned, I think we could avoid a lot of that. And there are lots of opportunities for us to have these conversations because we are making mistakes or having some sort of low stakes failure on a daily basis. One thing that I do think has shifted since I was in college is that so much of what is out there in the world looks perfect, right? And
Yeah.
this isn't a conversation about social media, but people just want to either skip to the good part or they don't post their fails, right? And so helping students realize that they're not the only ones feeling this way, or helping staff, employees, people who are in the audience realize that they're not the only ones can go a long way as well.
It's occurring to me how so much of what you're doing, like you said, it's really kind of bringing back the the childlike mindset that we once had that we just totally lose sight of. And so I love that you make it about play because it's not like as adults there's any version of that really, right? It just becomes seemingly more serious as life goes on, and it feels like it becomes more like every failure is more and more significant. So I love that you're just reintroducing the whole idea of play because we just completely lose sight of that. What do you have for advice to people just in general if they're feeling like, okay, yeah, I'm not good at failing. Okay, I don't want to fail. I'm a perfectionist. What advice do you have in general for people?
Now, I think I'll take it back to something I just mentioned is that you already have the ability to navigate and to manage what happens after you make a mistake, after you fail. You have done it. It's a skill. It may be more hidden than you realize or more hidden than you want it to be. You have that within you in order to do that. When I am working with students and clients, I am often just encouraging them to continue to be curious and to ask questions. So often when we make a mistake, there's blame and definitive statements that come out of those experiences. When in reality, I want you to say, how fascinating, or this is new to me, or I can't do this yet, right? There's a few things that we can say, and oftentimes it's just the change of a word, like
Hmm.
I can't do this to I can't do this yet. And integrating some phrases like that. I recently had some sticker sheets made up with some of those phrases so people can put those on a mirror or somewhere else on their laptop, something like that, in order to give themselves a reminder. It's a daily practice. And so whether you journal or you pray or you do some reflection or meditation, there are ways to integrate some failure / positive talk into that. And so, in general, people have the skill, the ability, usually the energy to be able to manage and navigate and overcome failure. And like I said before, it's good to let them know that this is happening to everyone. And no matter how put together somebody else might seem, that they are experiencing failure as well. It is not about a comparison; it's about your own progress and process. So that's some really general examples. Integrating a phrase like "how fascinating" or "this is new to me" instead of "I can't do this" can go a long way.
Yeah. I love that you said yet as well, because we generally do just stop at, oh, I don't know how to do this. The end. I failed. I'm a terrible human. I mean, our brains go to so many different places. I don't know if I shared this with you or not, Tom, but so you know Gail Moat, right?
Yes. I'm connected through her because we worked with her brother as financial advisors, and that's how I got connected to her.
Oh,
But
how
she's amazing.
funny. Yeah, she's amazing. So way back when I got my MBA, Gail was my favorite MBA instructor, and I had not seen her for years until actually the event that I first saw you at when I saw you present. Anyway, Gail's retired now. She's I'll say she's kind of legendary around here, but just an amazing human. Anyway, in her class, she recommended that people say fascinating as well. But it's something that I picked up and that I've carried with me. And so I found it especially fun when I saw you say it in your presentation. And I actually told Gail that night, I said, Gail, I remembered a lot of great stuff from your course, but fascinating was my biggest takeaway. And I say it all the time. In fact, some people in my family make fun of me a little bit because I say it so often. I say, that's fascinating. I think
Yeah,
it can be used in a lot of ways.
that's one of the reasons why I love it, Sherry, is that there's no judgment associated with it. And so you can use it with
Yeah.
yourself and others. And I feel like if people use fascinating more often, that might help us in a bunch of different ways. I appreciate my name being mentioned in the same hour as Gail's. Gail has been an amazing support. And so I'll ask you, Sherry, you said you use fascinating a lot. Can you think of a recent
Yeah.
example of when you used that?
Oh my gosh. Probably, an example of that would be when my boys are doing something that I don't agree with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating that he thinks he has time to eat breakfast, brush his teeth, and the bus is going to be here in 30 seconds. So I use it in a lot of ways. Also, definitely when I make mistakes, I do think that is a huge takeaway that the people who attend your workshops, I think they're going to take that with them throughout their lives. Maybe their family members are going to be making fun of them at some point too. But I really do. I have had a lot of times where I say, how fascinating. And it really just has kind of changed my whole mindset about a situation. It's kind of a reminder that we're human, and that other people are too.
It's a nice short phrase that allows us to keep our minds open to opportunity. And like I said, it doesn't really have judgment attached to it. And I find it helps me continue to move forward. Even if I don't have a solution or an answer or know exactly what needs to happen next, there's an openness there that's really freeing that we don't get so often. And so, and I will say, I am not the originator of this phrase. And so, it comes from, an amazing speaker and trainer and educator named Benjamin Zander, who, with his wife Roz, wrote the book, The Art of Possibility, all about being open to possibility. And Ben often, I think, is retired now, but does these amazing sessions, usually with educators, on how to help students learn better. And he gives the little spiel about when we make a mistake, we need to celebrate it. And we do that by throwing our hands up in the air and saying, how fascinating. And so when I talked about being closed off to growth when mistakes happen or failure happens, Ben teaches us to do the exact opposite. And so as you've witnessed and as others can imagine, in my sessions, we're learning how to juggle. And so anytime a ball drops, we throw our hands up in the air and say, how fascinating. And it just creates this really cool environment that kind of normalizes failure, normalizes mistakes. And oftentimes we've got all levels of management, including supervisors and supervisees and C-suite in the room together, and being able to do that together, sharing that experience and giving some shared language is and can be really powerful.
Okay, a couple more questions for you. What would this version of Tom tell your younger version of Tom?
Yeah, I just came across a quote from another speaker friend of mine that is really resonating with me a lot right now. And it's from Zig Ziglar, the longtime amazing public motivational speaker, who said, "You can have everything in life you want if you will just help other people get what they want." And as soon as I heard that, I realized I feel like that's a lot of why I've been successful with this keynote and workshop speaking, is because a lot of the work that I do has been directly helping others, and I'm seeing the return on that now. And so I'd like to think I knew this as a younger self, but it's been solidified for me recently. And then, not to make it about me, but I've developed this mantra over the years with input from others to be competent, curious, and kind. And so I would tell myself, and I tell this to students all the time, that and clients all the time, that being competent is a goal. You don't need to be the best. Being competent, remaining curious. So that's where that how fascinating comes in, or I can't do this yet. And then just be kind. I don't think we have enough kindness in this world. And so doing those three things become really fulfilling and allow you to be really successful. So those are a couple of things that are making sense for me right now.
Well, and I think with kindness too, I mean, being kind with yourself, which is something
Mhm.
you talk about when failing too, because we can so easily say to someone else, "Oh, you're gonna make it work, or it's all gonna work out, or whatever." But with ourselves, it feels like, "Oh no, this is terrible." So having that kindness for ourselves too. It's funny how, a lot of times we hear this quote or any quote, we think it's nothing earth shattering, but just the way it's said, it's something that we can just take with us and kind of think about throughout the days, especially when we're having a day where we feel like we're failing a lot. Where can people find you?
I am addicted to LinkedIn. And so I am checking that on a daily basis, many times a day. And I love interacting with people there. And then my website is tom-hicks, HICKS.com. And that has a little preview video and my bio and some of my partners and clients on there. It's a good way just to get a sense of what this juggling workshop, embracing failure and growth through juggling, looks and sounds like. And my email address and other ways to get a hold of me are there. And then most currently, if people are in the Eastern Iowa area, I will be speaking at EntreFest in Iowa City on June 12th. And so if anybody's interested or already planning on attending that entrepreneurial conference, it'd be great to meet and see some people there too.
It's especially great, I think, that you are going to be speaking to entrepreneurs because, yeah, that's a whole another level of failure. So I just love that you're presenting there. That's going to be great. So impactful. Thank you so much for being here, Tom. This has been fun, and I will see you again soon, I'm sure. Thank you to everyone listening, and follow Tom. He's good stuff. And as you know now, he's addicted to LinkedIn. So follow him out there. He always has great stuff out there to share. And I will see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player, tell your friends, and leave us a review. Follow me on my social media platforms highlighted in the show notes, and get in touch with me at thedashmindset.com. Share the topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Thanks again for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. We'll see you next time. Design and differentiate your dash your way and make today